Hello pals, welcome back to my channel. It's a plan with me and I'm talking to you on camera. What is happening? That's because it's a very special plan with me, being January, being the new year. So I'm doing more than just planning in my bullet journal. I'm going through my whole year, reflecting on 2018 and setting my goals for 2019. Also, I have a stinking cold, so I sound gross and it gets dark so quickly at the moment. So I'm in my kitchen because this is the lightest room at the moment. So it's very echoey, so bear with. So like a lot of you are probably doing right now, I look to YouTube for some inspiration on how to reflect on my year, some prompts, things like that, and how to set my goals. So the people that I mostly watched are Michelle B and Lavender. They're two of my favourite kind of lifestyle YouTubers. So they had some great content out there about reflecting on your year and looking forward. So I watched all of their videos. I'll link them all down below because they're very useful. And I've kind of pulled the best bits from them, the bits that kind of resonated with me the best, and kind of put some other stuff in there as well. So 2018 has been a year, so I kind of wanted to just kick it out the door and move on and just forget it all happened. But that is not an intentional way of living. It's so important to reflect on your year, even if you've had a really rubbish time, so that you can learn from it and grow from it and be grateful for everything that it's taught you. Even if you think, no, it's just been rubbish, it's not taught me anything, you will definitely have learned some lessons from all of the things that happened. And when I was doing this, I actually could not remember what had happened in my year. I was trying to look back, and literally as far back as I could get was like summer. I was like, what the hell happened beginning of 2018? I could not remember. So I had to watch through all of my old vlogs. I looked back through my bullet journal, like my calendars, to see what I was doing at these certain times. And I do have some like journaling bits that say like how I was feeling at certain times. So I kind of wrote out month by month a little summary of how I was feeling, what I was doing, just so that I could accurately reflect on the whole year rather than just the last couple of months that I can remember. And this is something that I'm definitely taking forward. A lesson I've learned in this process is that going forward in 2019, I'm going to do a monthly summary at the end of every month, so that when I come to reflecting on 2019, it's way easier. So at the end of every month, I'm just going to write a little paragraph, like how I've been feeling, what I've been doing, highlights, lowlights, what I'm grateful for, things like that. So that's definitely a lesson I'm taking forward. So once I'd kind of reminded myself of my year, I first looked at my achievements and highlights, and I wrote down a list of all of the things I felt I had achieved and the highlights of the year for me. So there were certain parts before I left my last job in summer where I was like feeling really good at my job. That felt really good. I had my first paid brand deal, which was amazing. I moved in with Adam in this flat. I spent lots of time with family. Well, not lots of time, but the time I did spend with family was really nice. We went to Legoland. And we had an award season at my last job, and that was my last one, and it was very emotional. Lots of crying happened. If you've been watching my vlogs for a little while, you'll know all about this. And I had some good YouTube things as well. So next I reflected on what I was grateful for the year for and what I learned from. Rather than saying the bad things about the year, it was reflecting on what I'd learned about myself from the year and the lessons I was grateful to learn from the year. So Adam, my partner, was absolutely amazing throughout this year, and like the ups and downs, so supportive. I've learned a lot about myself, about how I work best. I'm grateful for having the time off work to kind of reflect and work on myself, even though that has been the main cause of stress in my year. It has also been useful. Silver linings and all that jazz. And I've also learned a lot about like my expectations of myself as well, and you'll kind of see that going forward in this plan with me too. Next I looked at what brought me joy or inspiration in the year. So this is kind of similar to the highlights and the achievements, but it's more looking at what things bring me joy that I can bring forward. So not like time specific things. Like the highlights are things that just happened last year, things that brought me joy and inspiration I can bring forward into the next year. So I've got spending time in nature, spending time with family, warmer weather. I cannot deal with the cold and the dark and winter at all, so if we are going travelling, it's definitely going to be to a warm place. I've read some really awesome books this year. You Are a Badass and Notes on a Nervous Planet. I would definitely recommend them if you're needing some inspiration and like a refresh. Really great reads. I might read them again actually, just to kind of get myself back in that zone. And I've got learning more as well. Like when I find something I'm interested in, I love learning about it and like learning more about it and becoming like an expert at it, even though I'm nowhere near an expert. And then from that, from the lessons and from the things that brought me joy, I've put the lessons that I want to take forward and kind of the reflections on myself that I want to take forward and do more of in the next year. So I've got taking time for rest does not make me lazy. This is kind of a misconception that I've been carrying around with me, and I only realised it recently that I do need to take breaks, and that does not make me a lazy person. I did loads and loads of yoga at the start of this year, and then from summer onwards I have not done nearly as much, and I know that it feels good, so I want to do more of it. And I definitely need to work on my self-confidence. That's something that definitely needs to be worked on in the next year. So I really liked how this was on the right hand page of my book so that I could turn the page on 2018 and start fresh on 2019. Forgot to mention, I did also look at my goals from 2018 and kind of how I'd done on them, but I did do this actually a couple of months ago. I did like a quarter year reflect, and I kind of feel like I did it then, so I don't need to do it again now. But I will put in a little clip here if you didn't watch that video so you can see kind of what I did then.
And this spread was inspired by a video from Kaylin Nicholson, who was kind of evaluating the year so far and working out how you can slay the rest of 2018. So it involves being honest with yourself of how your year has actually gone, accepting how it's been, forgiving yourself and the universe for your year, and refocusing yourself so you can make sure the rest of your year is absolutely amazing. I found this spread really helpful to look back on my goals at the start of the year and to kind of prioritise and focus my goals for the rest of 2018.
So when I started my planning for 2019 and my goal setting, intention setting, one of the things Michelle B was talking about was having a word for the year, like a focus word for the year. So I did a little brainstorm, like mini brainstorm of how I want to feel in 2019 and at the end of 2019. And the biggest thing for me is consistency. 2018 has been very up and downy with like my situation and my feeling and my mental health, so I want 2019 to be a consistent year. I then wrote a little vision, so this is like a journal entry that I would write in December 2019. So this is looking back on the whole of 2019, what has happened, how am I feeling, and you write this in the present tense because that helps to like solidify it in your mind that this is going to happen and this is like the goal, and it makes it more likely to happen if you kind of believe it. So I looked at that vision journal entry and I looked at my keyword and I had them in my mind, and then I wrote my goals as to how I'm going to get to that vision and how I'm going to use that focus word to get to the vision. One way that you can split up your goals is to have what goal you want, why you want it, which is very important, and then how you're going to get it and like break it down. And I started doing this, but I wasn't really into it. So it's kind of all a how and all a why. So my what goal, like my goal, the overarching one, is to have consistency in my day-to-day life and do things because they feel good, not because I have to. And then that's kind of the why as well, like that's why I want to do it, so that I can feel consistent, so that I can achieve that vision that I just wrote. And the hows are getting a job. These are all, well, some of them are like time specific as well, like time measurable. You should really do SMART targets to make them more achievable. So that's kind of what I did, but loosely as well, because I want to give myself a bit of a break and a bit of a room for manoeuvring. Be financially stable, consistently look after my body, spend more time in nature, be able to drive and have a car, spend more time with friends and family, work on my self-esteem, more consistent online content, work at festivals this summer. These are kind of some very specific ones at the end. Save enough money for travelling and continue reducing waste and consumption of animal products. So now I've got my goals, I'm going ahead into 2019 planning mode. So to start with, to achieve that goal of having more consistent content and more beautiful content, I wrote up a year content planner, so a planner for my whole year of content on YouTube, on Instagram, things like that. In here I'm going to put things like the International Day of whatever, you know, all of those days. I always forget when they are and then they creep up on me and then I'm not prepared. And also I go through like phases, like ups and downs of when I'm really inspired and I want to create a load of stuff, and then phases where I'm not inspired at all and I have no ideas and I'm like, meh. So this will really help with that when I'm like having a less inspired, less creative phase. I compared to this, and this has got some ideas. And also I tend to have really good ideas too late to make them. So like I'll have a really good idea for something to make, like Christmas content, but it's too late to make it, so I'll be like, right, I'll just do it next year, and then by next year I've totally forgotten. So this is kind of writing in here ideas that I have that would be good for this time of year. I'm going to write it in here for this time next year. So I'm not going to show you what I put on here because it's a surprise. So then moving on to my actual January spreads. So looking out my window as I was planning, this is what I'm seeing, and this is the kind of inspiration I took for my theme for the month. I wanted to keep it quite simple and quite kind of minimal, but also like pretty as well. So using my Creative Peaks brush pens, I did some watercolour in the pinks, purples, blues, and that's like the fog. And then I drew some trees just in a black biro, and I put some silver trees in there as well to make it like frosty trees. And then using that same palette, I wrote the word January in my calligraphy. That was one of my goals for 2018, was to get better at calligraphy, and still working on it, but it's looking good. I've gone for the vertical layout again just because I quite like that, and I've got my habit tracker at the bottom there. I really didn't touch my habit tracker in December, it just did not happen. But hopefully in January I can pick it up a bit more, and they're all kind of related to my goals. Like the habits that I'm tracking are the goals that I'm trying to implement, so it ties in really nicely. So then with that other page spread, I had a to-do list for January to help me fulfill the goals, and so I basically looked at my goals, looked at what I could do in January, and wrote them down, like tasks that I could do to help me fulfill my goals in January. And I'm gonna do this every month, like look back at my goals, write down tasks that I can do this month to achieve those overall goals. But then I also wrote to manage my expectations of myself. This list was getting pretty hefty, this to-do list, and this is something that I do, is I set myself too many goals, I set myself too many to-dos, and then I get annoyed at myself when I can't finish them all or when I can't tick them all off. So I've got to be aware to not set myself too many goals, and to also be okay with myself if I don't complete them all. I've got my little social media tracker there, and then just in that little space at the bottom, I kind of did a little quote, but I really don't like quotes. So this is just kind of pulling from that to-do list. I noticed I was writing about establishing a routine a lot, so I kind of set this as my overall goal for the month, is to establish a routine so that my consistency, which was my overall year goal, can be achieved. So that's all of the goal setting, intention setting, planning that I'm doing for 2019 as a whole, and just for January. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found this useful. I hope you're having a fantastic festive period, and if you're not having a fantastic festive period, then that is okay. You don't need to compare your life with others. Your time is just as valid as everyone else's. That's a note to self as well. When I'm not having such a good time, don't compare myself to others. I'm super excited for the year ahead and like a fresh start. I really need it. 2018 was pretty rubbish, to be fair, so I learned a lot of lessons from it, and I'm excited to take them forward into 2019 and grow more as a person. And I'm excited to take you along the journey with me. Make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my really exciting videos that I've got planned, and I will see you in my next video. See you later, guys. Bye.